What a wonderful event this has been so far. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I thought that performance by Unique Feet was truly inspiring, and I would like you lot to give them another big rousing applause. I was born without hands and without feet. I do have arms and legs, but I was born like this. And unlike probably everybody else here, one, I don't have a disease, so I feel a bit of a fraud. And secondly, I've never found out why. Apparently, when I was born, it was a long time ago, the doctors pointed out that there was something wrong, and guys in the laboratory did every test under the sun, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. I've just got missing bits, that's all. So it is very unusual. Thalidomide I do not have, so it's just one of those things. Resonating with me is the view that quite often you get stared at. And Phil, you'll understand this one too. Some time ago, I was walking down the street when I heard this little voice behind me saying, "Mummy, Mummy, that man has no hands." I thought, "Ooh." And then I heard a slap, smack. I thought that was a bit unfair. And then a few paces later, "Mummy, Mummy, it really is true. That man has no hands." They were getting closer and closer to me, and I was just walking down the street. And then, "Mummy, Mummy, he's got no feet either." I thought, this lad must be about 4 or 5, but he's going to go places. He's really observant. And then when he came alongside me, his mother was obviously so embarrassed. She had him by one arm, and she was dragging him along like this, dragging one leg behind him on the ground. And as he went past me, he looked at me. "Yeah, it really is true. He's got no hands and no feet." And at that point, they went past, and he was looking over the shoulder at me like this. And then I realized, and I shouted out, "Lamppost! Lamppost!" Too late. He went smack straight into the lamppost. And I felt sorry for him. Poor lad was hurt because he was being observant and interested and curious. And then his mother gave him a right good slapping for embarrassing her even more. And I felt terrible. But I have to say there's a little bit of me that tells disabled people that when you feel really low, just know that there's a lamppost out there waiting for somebody. If we can have the first slide, So this is the wonderful 1960s, black and white. I think everything was black and white then. But you can see that they gave me long legs, so I was just about the same height. And that's my mother and father and my normal sister. So we move on. From an early age, I loved swimming and loved the swimming pool. I love that picture. That's my mum, and that's Roehampton swimming baths. And the next one is an example of how experts get it wrong. So they decided, oh, John really likes swimming, so we're going to give him flippers. So, and I was about 5 at this time. You can see from the expression I wasn't very impressed. I told the guys who were standing, and unfortunately I've not got a picture of them, there were 3 men, I kid you not, standing in white lab coats with clipboards by the side of this pool. And they had invented these flippers. Now, if you think about your legs, if you're lying in the water like I am, the only way that my legs can move is to go towards my tummy. So as I moved my legs that way, the flippers worked and I went backwards, which is what I told them would happen. Oh, no, he doesn't know, he's only 5. Yes, that experiment lasted 5 minutes. I now swim virtually every day. I went swimming this morning. I swim on my back, primarily because I can see and breathe, and it's much easier. And everybody else complains bitterly if I swim on my front because I create too much wake and wash and waves. Anyway, so I love sport from an early age. Next one, please. But as my role models, my heroes when I was growing up, and this is really important to me, and this is really important message. So I was a big football fan, and I don't want to know the score. I hope I get to get home without knowing the score. Peter Lorimer of Leeds United, for those who are old enough to remember, who could kick the ball harder than anybody else. And Bill Beaumont, the England rugby captain. And I was once walking along and I said to my friend, don't look over your shoulder, but there's somebody really important alongside you. And he looked over and he said, oh my God, he said, he's mine too. It was Bill Beaumont. But they were able-bodied. And there was no way I was going to play football like Peter Lorimer or rugby like Bill Beaumont. And if we go to the next one, what a fantastic role model that I've just picked out, Ellie Simmons, but there are so many hundreds now, and it is fantastic. There are role models doing sport regardless of their disabilities and impairments and enjoying it. The next one too. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting this guy. Dylan Alcott is a triple Paralympic gold medalist at tennis, quad wheelchair player, and I got to play my very, very first game of tennis with him, which is a bit like for some of you playing with Roger Federer in your first game, and for the ladies amongst us, Serena Williams. It was a bit scary, and I was rubbish, but it was great fun. So it's wonderful to have role models like this. His disabilities are incredible, and yet there he is, Australian, not just Paralympian, Australian of the Year. So use that with your children and others. Next one. When I was growing up, they gave me this to actually operate. God, was it clunky? There was a strap that went around my shoulders, but it's hardly conducive to take a girl out and give her a nice scratch down the, oh, sorry, I've just cut your back. No, it's really not very nice. And that was on my right paw. Oh, by the way, I call these my paws, a bit like Paddington Bear or Winnie the Pooh. Very interesting change in the last 10 years. When I first started telling kids how many of them had actually known Winnie the Pooh, and that everybody knew Winnie the Pooh, and nobody knew Paddington Bear, and now it's almost reversed. Very interesting. Anyway, I've got paws. My right paw goes into that one, and the next slide. Wow, that was what my left paw went into. Gosh, wasn't it clunky and horrible? But the only good thing is I've got very strong shoulders, because carrying that weight around, you really do. Next one. Technology. This is the most important piece of kit I have. And this particular one was from a bit of coat hanger. This hook, which goes over my paw, pulls up my zip. I once handed it around a district council not far from here and got them to guess what it was. It was really funny how quickly it came back when I told them what it was. Without it, I can't put my trousers on. And because I need to pull up the zip before I can do the button up. And it just shows you that technology can come in many different guises. I also have an iPad, an iPhone, and I can, with this paw, type. And I've just acquired an Apple Watch, and much to my amazement, I can still type with this one paw. Next one. Most people are surprised, but actually this is the car before the one outside. I hope it's still outside when I get there because it's in a loading bay. Anyway, it's a standard car. The adaptions are great. Next one. You can see I have a cone which my paw goes into, and I steer by moving my paw. And next one, raised pedals and a 9-way infrared remote control, a bit like your telly one, but it's round. And you can see an extended gear lever and a second point for the seatbelt. It's remarkably simple, although there's quite a lot of engineering about the pedals being swapped over. One of my first cars was broken into when I lived in Brooklands Avenue. And obviously the thieves broke in and they put their head in, and obviously they broke in behind the driver's seat, obviously put their head in and went, oh, ... and went and stole another car. Yay! So I drove. My father, and this is another one, my father assumed that I would never drive. And because he assumed I would never drive, I assumed that I would never drive. So be careful of your assumptions. In fact, I learned to drive when I was 35. I'm now 62. So it took me a long time to learn that I could drive and that it was practical. And these adaptions are not complicated in comparison to numerous ones that are out there now. But that assumption, actually my father was a dreadful passenger. The first time he came, well, it wasn't quite the first time, he drove with me and he sat in the front seat and he had one hand on the handle above the door and the other one on the door handle. And he told me to tailgate, which I could never quite have, that was really, really bizarre. Move up, move up. Well, anyway, the reason for this is when I was little, I was taught how to write using a pencil in the hook. So we'd put a pencil in and it was held on by that trusty high-tech piece of kit, an elastic band. And the problem with it is it's very difficult to get downward pressure and so that you could read it. So the only way to read it was be perfect. And I had to practice and practice. And I did practice a lot, and you could just about read my handwriting. But it was a right pain. One day, again, an assumption, that was the only way John could write. One day I took my hook off, picked up a pen between my paws, and started writing. I won third prize in a handwriting competition for the whole of London. And I wish there had been a poor writing competition because I might have won it for the whole of the country. Anyway, these are my drawings subsequently. The next one is, and my favorite one is the third one, which is lots and lots of dots. So again, you can, if you want to do something, if you've got the patience, perseverance, you can do it. Next one. When I was very little, my parents had me at Dulwich Nursery in London. It was just an ordinary state school nursery. This is not it. This is an older version of it, a more recent version. And I was happy. And I was taken out of Dulwich Nursery because the inspectors came along and said, a disabled person can't stay, has to go off to a special school. And my parents complained, everybody complained. And I did go off to a special school where all I was taught was how to be different, how to be disabled. Now, I'm not saying I think that the special needs provision is fantastic, but we need to break down the barriers between special needs and not special needs. And my father actually said one nice thing about me. He went to the head teacher and he told the story that he asked how many O-levels, shows my age, John was going to be able to do. And the head teacher said, none, of course, Mr. Willis, don't have unrealistic ambitions for your son. And my father said, in a rare moment of niceness, he said, but John's got a brain, why can't he use it? And that's when my parents then took me out of the state sector, and I ended up at Dulwich Prep, and then Colston's Prep in Bristol, and then Kingswood. And then next one, there's Kingswood School, another drawing by me, and the next one, Trinity Hall here in Cambridge. And I read law, and I would really, really like to have met the head teacher from back then. So again, another assumption, that do not allow assumptions to, or other people's assumptions, to limit you or your family's or friends' lives. Next one. So 9 years ago, the guy in the middle on the left of the picture, Tim Martin, persuaded me to do an able-bodied triathlon. He took him 5 years to get me to do it. He said, you do the swim, I'll do the bike ride, and Henry Brown on the right will do the run. Our goal was not to come last, and we smashed it. We had a blast, and we did it. We did it in under 2 hours. I did my bit in 53 minutes, 23 seconds, not that I'm counting. And we came 18th out of 27. And we raised £20,000, and I set up Power2Inspire to show that disabled and non-disabled people could do sport together. And that's what Power2Inspire does. So if we move forward, this is a very short video of me doing some of the 34 Olympic and Paralympic sports I did in the run-up to Rio. There's just 3 on here. For those who are interested, the pedals are going backwards because there's an interesting engineering challenge with a tricycle. That was really cool. Slightly different change of pace, but actually far, far more frightening. This was the first time I'd ever been on a horse without somebody standing beside me. And at this point, Bonnie, the horse, I thought, oh no, but I just stayed on. And this was equally frightening, diving from a 3-meter high diving board without hands, because I couldn't reach the top of my head. So I had to put my arms down by my side. And because of that, you get it twice. What you don't realize, 3 meters, is you're actually looking at the bottom of the pool, which is another 5 meters below you. So it's 8 meters down, and your brain is saying, don't do it, don't do it. If you watch the rest of the video, you can even see, I think, goalball is on that, and Sarah, who's here, was instrumental in inviting me to go and play some goalball, and she's off to the World Championships, so do congratulate her afterwards, because that's actually, why not congratulate her now, because she's off in 9 days' time. Is it gonna, it often refuses to move on at this point. Right, so I've had lots of prosthetics and adaptions, and if you're interested at the end on your way out and want to stop, we've got a table full of them. If you want any questions, then I can go and show them. What I really, really like about some of them, one's up there, which one of your colleagues. What I like about this is a tennis racket. I can just put it on. And like you can just pick up a tennis racket, I can pick up a tennis racket. The yellow thing is for throwing the ball up for serving, and that's how I hit it. But I can take it off again, put it on. So that's really, really cool. That's what I think that prosthetics should be about. They shouldn't be adapting me, they should be adapting the piece of kit. Next one. What do we do at Power2Inspire? Very quickly, we do multi-sport, multi-inclusive games. This was a university powerhouse games where we did lots of different sports, and there are 12 teams, all including a disabled child. Next one. We do games to inspire. We go into schools and we mix disabled and non-disabled kids up so that they can play together. Next one. We do festivals of inclusive sport, and where we get a chance to concentrate on one particular sport. And you can guess there's a cricket, golf and tennis there, and we've also do a bocce tournament as well. Next one. We do a supersensory inclusive kilometre at Histon Rec each year on Bank Holiday Monday, and we're trying to expand the supersensory. It's basically a walk, wheel, run for a kilometre, and along the way there are 5 sensory stations. One is a sight, which is great with bubbles and all sorts of things, sounds, taste, which is very popular, and smell, and I do really understand what you meant by lush. I had a bath bomb, about 15 bath bombs and some manure in my car at the time, 1 week before one of these, and I ended up liking the manure more than the bath. Next one. So, rule number 1 for us is to have fun. And I think that's it. There you are.